I know everyone's waiting for lunch, and you've been promised music. But even before we talk about music, I'm going to talk about color for a minute. Everybody remember Chinese New Year? It wasn't that long ago, right? Just a short time ago, and you got some nice money in a little packet, or if you're married, you gave away the money in the little packet. I want you to think about the color of that packet. Got it in your mind? Remember it? Can you imagine it really clearly? How many of you think it was this color? Yeah, and how many of you think it was this color? Yeah, nobody, right? Isn't that interesting? Congratulations, you did an extraordinary thing. The human brain, your human brain, has just been able to distinguish between a very narrow visual frequency of about, let's see, I've got it here, it's 450 terahertz. But you know what? A lot of you are teachers, kindergarten students can do it too. And yet, that's quite amazing. And it's an amazing skill because only a fraction of human beings are not able to do it. One of the reasons that whole blue, gold, the dress, the one, one of the reasons it was so popular on the internet is because it's so rare for people to disagree about color. Now I'm going to go a different direction. Anybody familiar with the song Happy from Despicable Me 2? Yeah, Pharrell Williams, might seem crazy what I'm about to say. That's the one. Okay, it's been viewed on YouTube 600 million times. If you haven't seen it, I don't know where you've been. Now, those of you who know the song, just keep quiet for a minute, but think of it in your head. Imagine that song in your head. It might seem crazy what I'm about to say. Now, that word, crazy. So think about that note. It might seem crazy. So now I'm going to give you two notes. Might seem crazy what I'm about to say. Is that the note? Or is it? Might seem crazy what I'm about to say. How many of you think it was the first note? How many of you think it was the second note? Yeah, why don't you agree? You all agreed on the red thing, right? That note I mentioned, it's defined by the fact that it vibrates at a frequency of about 350 hertz. So our brain can do that with color, but we can't do it with pitch. So in case you're interested, here's the real key.
It might seem crazy what I'm about to say. Sunshine, she's here, you can take a break. I'm a hot air balloon that can float to space.
That's how the beginning. But it might just as well have been in another key. How about this one?
It might seem crazy what I'm about to say. Sunshine, she's here, you can take a break. I'm a hot air balloon that can float to space.
Or just for fun, we might have done it in this key. It might seem crazy.
It might seem crazy what I'm about to say. Sunshine, she's here, you can take a break. Hot air balloon that can float to space.
Now, most of you couldn't come up with that note, F or fa, out of thin air, the way that you can color. And the reason for that is that human beings, for us, there's no special reason why a song has to start on any particular note. We've just showed. All three ways sounded okay. But in short, to enjoy a song, all human beings need is a skill that is even more interesting, and that is the ability to put a song in a particular frame of reference and then calculate either way. This is an amazing skill. It's a crazy skill. Why don't we need an absolute note? I mean, just for example, it doesn't work with painting. What if we took the Mona Lisa and we'd shifted all the frequencies to a little bit to the left? Well, her face would look green. She'd look like the Incredible Hulk. And that's because color, for human beings, unlike pitch, is absolute. Now, I have to mention that there is an extremely small group of humans, probably one in only about 10,000, who have a very unusual skill, which is really to perceive sound with the degree of absoluteness that most of us perceive color. We call this type of pitch perception absolute pitch, or perfect pitch, and it's very rare, and it's actually not as helpful as you might think, even for a professional musician. There's one of my choir members, and you might have been able to tell which one she was, because her face was, she was just cringing when we're doing the song in all those different keys. If to her, it was like taking the Mona Lisa and painting her face green. But for most people, though, pitch exists within a contextual frame. So what we recognize is the relationship between pitches, and this is called relative pitch. And while some of us are a bit better at it than others, and some of us can produce the notes better than others, pretty much all of us, we care. We care so much about pitch because we are humans. And the thing you'll notice about famous singers, no matter whether they're cantopop stars or Italian opera or anything else, is that they all have really good pitch. They sing in tune, even no matter what kind of music it is. And that's because pitch is a central element of music that is central to human beings. For example, a song can be really simple song with just a few notes, but just changing the pitch around, just a few words.
When I am down and oh my soul so weary, when troubles come and my heart burdened be, then I am still and wait here in the silence until you come and sit a while with me.
One of the other things you can do is you can take a very simple rhythm and you can take the pitches one by one and layer them on top of each other. It's also a very simple thing, but it produces a fascinating effect. There's another thing you can do, which is just take one word and adjust the pitch on that one word just a little bit. The name of our group, the Grace Notes, comes from this kind of ornamentation. Instead of saying la, you sing la. That's a grace note. Then you can get a bit complicated with it, and you can do something called a melisma, where you take one word and you make a lot of pitches on it. It goes something like this. Now, I have a warning for you. Don't go overboard with this. Christina Aguilera, a few years back, fantastic singer, by the way, great pitch. She was singing the national anthem of the United States at a sports game, and she got so caught up in the melisma, singing all those notes on all that pitch, she actually forgot the words. So, be careful with how far you go with it. And yet, pitch is not something only for professional musicians or even about music at all. As human beings, we care even about pitch in language. Now, it can be meaningful at the level of the word. That's something we see very, very obviously in Cantonese. For example, the difference between
我識你，
and another thing.
我食你。
Those of you in the audience who speak Cantonese can tell the other ones why that was funny. And the other thing is that it's actually not only for Chinese or for any of these tone languages, even English has the same thing. So there's a big difference between this
Some tea,
and this.
some tea.
These are very different meanings at the level of the sentence. And yet, pitch in language also conveys a lot of emotion. Now, teachers know this very well. I remember a teacher, I guess the idea of pitch and emotion was so hardwired into her brain, as it is into all humans, that she said to me, "Don't you look at me with that tone of voice." Took me a little while to get it, but I understood the tone of voice all right from her. Now, some of this hardwired pitch perception can really be patently unfair in today's world. Pitch conveys authority and trustworthiness, so you often see men's voices being more trusted because they are lower. And this hardwired, that's not really something we want to see in today's world. It can also be a contributor to discrimination in the workplace as a result. If you ever go to Japan, you hear one of these positions that is an extreme service position, and you hear it in the pitch of the voice of the woman who's saying it. You know, "Sumimasen, onegaishimasu." Yeah, that's not the position of authority. But coming back to music for a minute, we humans, we really demand perfection in relative pitch from our singers. So today, most of the recorded music we hear is actually not quite as good as it is, not as quite as good before it's recorded as it is after it's recorded. There's a wonderful device called an auto-tuner. It's a digital processing program that adjusts bad tuning and makes it good tuning. It's kind of like the Photoshop of music. So you have a chord like this, a badly sung chord. And it makes it into a nice chord, something like this, and we better do this right. Only the difference is it can do it at a touch of a button. It doesn't require any humans to do it. Now, you might think that a musician wouldn't want anyone to know that he uses the Photoshop of music, the auto-tuner, because he doesn't want anyone to know he's got bad pitch. But musicians never stop. And some of them, the first one was, I think, Cher, and followed by the rapper T-Pain. They actually used the auto-tuner as a device to make a new art form. So they take a single note, and then the auto-tuner adjusts their notes up and down the scale. So now, everybody, not only Christina Aguilera, can do a melisma so long and so complicated that they can forget the words. And yet, why? Why do we care so much about pitch? What is it about this that makes us, give us a digital device and we create a new art form? And let me think about one thing that pitch really does. It tells you the sex of the other person. It turns out that pitch is very important in attracting a mate. And you might hear scientists who love to talk about bird songs, but let me tell you, human love songs. There's far more than bird songs. Some of the earliest ones we have in history are love songs. And so to close this session, we're going to sing a song for you, which is about love, but it's also about someone who desperately wanted to learn how to be human. Mermaid, as it happened, and the song is called Kiss the Girl.
Don't know why, but you're dying to try. You wanna kiss the girl. Yes, you want her. Look at her, you know you do. 'Cause impossible she wants you to. There is one way to ask her. It don't take a word, not a single word. Go on and kiss the girl. Sha-la-la-la-la-la, my oh my. Look like the boy too shy. Ain't gonna kiss the girl. Sha-la-la-la-la-la, ain't that sad? Oh, what a shame, too bad. He gonna miss the girl. Now's your moment. Floating in a blue lagoon. Boy, you better do it soon. No time will be better. She don't say a word. She won't say a word until you kiss the girl. Sha-la-la-la-la-la, don't be scared. You got the mood prepared. Go on and kiss the girl. Sha-la-la-la-la-la, don't stop now. Don't try to hide it. How you wanna kiss the girl? Sha-la-la-la-la-la, look along and listen to the song. The song say, kiss the girl. Sha-la-la-la-la-la, music play. Do what the music say. You gotta kiss the girl. You got to kiss the girl. Go on and kiss the girl. Go on and kiss the girl.
Thank you very much.